Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Saddleback webinar this week. My name is Liz Mangus, Literacy Specialist with Saddleback Educational Publishing. And once again, we always hop on just a few minutes early just to give you an opportunity to sign in and get comfortable. I'm sure many of you at this point in 2020, you know how Zoom and Zoom webinar work, but just on the off chance that you are new here, please take the time to find your control panel, control bar, which is at the bottom of your web browser window. And on that control bar, you will find two icons that you'll need to interact with us today. First is the chat. That is where you will be able to communicate with all of your fellow attendees today and our presenter. Please do be aware, however, that in the chat area, there is a drop-down menu and you'll want to choose all panelists and attendees before hitting send on your chat. So that way everybody can see what it is you need to say. If you don't do that, only a select few people at Saddleback will see your message, and we want you to be able to share your ideas with everybody. So please check that drop-down menu and make sure you're sending your message to everybody. Now, if you have a question, please enter that into the Q&A area, and that way we'll be able to address it quickly. We'll get started right at 3 o'clock today. We always like to remind you that we are on Twitter. Not only is Saddleback on Twitter, but our speaker for today is also on Twitter. So while you're waiting for us to get started, please go ahead, follow us, let everybody know you are joining us for this great learning opportunity today. And I see many of you are jumping on, they're trickling in, Theresa. I want everybody to know that we have a very interactive session for you today. So if you are a regular attendee of Saddleback webinars and you're used to just hanging back and listening to the information while you're doing other things, today you're going to want your eyes on your screen because you're going to have a really great opportunity to collaborate and get involved in the work that we're going to do today. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes. Let's check in with our speaker today. Theresa, how are you?
I am good. Thanks for having me.
And I'm sure everybody wants to know, where are you? Are you East Coast, West Coast?
I'm in Fairfax, Virginia, which means that I can usually get to all the great museums in DC and monuments in about 15 minutes pre-COVID.
Oh, wow. That's a great spot to be in. So now, but now you're not, I'm sure you're hanging out at home. You're not really getting out to the monuments very much these days,
No,
huh?
we are very much at home right now.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So while we're waiting, please feel free go to the chat. We want everybody to be comfortable using the chat, and they already know the routine. I always ask, where are you joining us from? We've got Texas, Colorado, Fresno. We've got Panama. All right, Raleigh, North Carolina. Nice to see you. If you're joining us today, I'm guessing you are teaching at a distance. You're teaching remotely. Hello, New Jersey. Hello, St. Louis. Also, let us know, what are you teaching, and are you teaching remotely, or is it a hybrid situation? Let us know. Hi, Michelle in Round Rock. ESL remotely, okay. I'm guessing a lot of our teachers will be ESL, teaching ESL remotely. Okay, Brad's in person, plus a new online school. Okay, that's a lot. English and special education, okay. School librarian, I always love it when the school librarians join us. Thank you, Denise, for joining us. Teaching English language development remotely, remote ESL. Okay, that's what I was thinking we would see. Columbia, okay, ESL remotely until next week. Okay. District instructional coach. Hi, Sue. Thank you for joining us. How many of you are getting ready to go back in person? Okay, we've got a lot of people supporting. We've got some support staff. Okay. I know if you're in Texas, you're probably in person. That's true. Okay, well, hybrid. The hybrid is the one that really stresses me out. So those of you who are doing hybrid, really more power to you. Okay, and we have a math instructional coach. Okay. Thank you all for contributing and letting us know who is in attendance today. This really helps us to know who we're speaking to. As you know, when we're working remotely, sometimes it can be hard to know who's out there, and it can feel like you're maybe talking to nobody sometimes. So we really appreciate you engaging with us today. Okay, Cindy, pending extension. Okay. Hello, Patricia. Thank you for joining us. All right. Well, now is a good time to officially launch our session for today. We are here to talk about teaching from a distance because so many of you are in this situation right now. And one of the biggest challenges when we're teaching from a distance is that student engagement piece, increasing that interaction and collaboration. So we have Theresa Wills joining us today, and she has been at this for a long time, and she's going to bring a lot of wisdom to share with you around this topic of collaborating and interacting. Let me introduce Theresa to you. So she is the author of Teaching Math at a Distance and is an assistant professor of mathematics education in the School of Education at George Mason University, where she works with in-service mathematics specialists and pre-service elementary and secondary teachers. Theresa has taught synchronous online classes and webinars since 2010 and researches teaching practices that are adaptable to the online environment. She's a former classroom teacher and math coach who still volunteers weekly in K-12 classrooms. So this is the person we need right now. And by the way, if you're not a math teacher, don't worry, there is something for everybody here. This is not a math specific webinar, so don't be deterred by that. So Theresa, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, let me share my screen here. All right, can I just get a confirmation you can see that, Liz?
Yes, ma'am, we can see it.
All right, folks. Well, welcome to Teaching from a Distance. Thank you for the introduction there. This is my comfort zone. This is where I enjoy teaching. I prefer teaching remotely over face-to-face, but it's because over the last 10 years, I figured out how to get more collaboration, interaction, and student voice in my online classes. So I'm here today to share a couple of tips for you all, things that you can implement right away, and things you can continue to think about. So let's go ahead and get started. I do want to mention that I don't think teachers should have to start from scratch for anything at all. I have included a lot of templates, both on my main website and the link here, which is theresawills.com/saddleback. And everything we're doing today is there. It's also there for you to copy, edit, and reuse in any way you like. So let's jump right in. We're going to start off with a little video here on which one doesn't belong. This is a pretty common routine seen in K-12 classrooms. And here's my take of it in the virtual world. And then you're going to actually participate in a which one doesn't belong. So let's go ahead and hit play on that.
Theresa, we're having some issues with the sound on this.
Gotcha. All righty. Let's do this then. I am always very patient and calm when it comes to tech things, and I do love to showcase mistakes as one of the main elements here. So let me go ahead and do one quick.
And we will give that another go. All right, here we go.
Hi, this is Theresa Wills. Here's a tip for teaching at a distance. Which one doesn't belong is a math class favorite because there's multiple correct answers. Students begin by moving the no symbol to the area that they think doesn't belong, and they have time to choose multiple sections that don't belong. Then there's a place for them to give a response, which letter doesn't belong and why. Every student can write the rationale, and if certain students prefer to read first, they can read other people's rationales before deciding on their own. Finally, for those students who finish typing early, they can read other students' responses and show a connection by changing the font to bold.
All right, folks. So I have a lot of resources available on my website that I'm going to have you all head to now so that you can explore this which one doesn't belong. Let's get hands-on experience. To do that, you're going to go to theresawills.com/saddleback. In the very first thing you'll see are a variety of months. That's for you. So click the month you were born and explore the which one doesn't belong. Actually move that star. I was born in June, so I'm going to go ahead and click June. Once I'm in here, I can edit the slide. Once you're in there, you'll be able to see some other folks are in there too, and you can move the little star to describe how do you feel about online learning today.
Okay, it looks like we've got some people joining in. Yes, we just put the link in the chat for you, ladies and gentlemen. And when you get to that website, you want to scroll down to the bottom and there is a link to those slides.
So you're gonna move right at the very top. It's got different months. You're gonna click on whichever month you were born in. What this does is it demonstrates what it's like to have multiple class periods. So if you want to keep your things separate, and it also supports me with a large number of people, making sure the Google Slides aren't bogged down by hundreds of people in at once. So again, theresawills.com/saddleback. And there's buttons for different months. You can go ahead and click on one of those and move the doesn't belong symbol or the little star to the section that applies to you. And the nice thing about that is on the second slide, it gives you a chance to write your rationale. Why does this describe you? I'm seeing several people moving them around. That is fabulous. And these are going to continue to be here for you. I wanted you to have a chance to kind of interact today, get your hands dirty, and then we'll see a couple more. So those look great. Those are going to be available to you all so that you can continue playing around with it throughout the presentation, and they'll just remain live. So you'll have opportunities for that.
Hi, this is Theresa Wills.
All right, if that's running a little slow with the number of people we have in, no worries, they're going to be available. Just wanted you to have some extra access to those. Let's talk about some protocols. So you might want engagement, student voice, and interaction, but sometimes you're stuck with a protocol. How do I do that? There's a couple of things that I like to introduce very early on, some easily accessible things, such as a chat waterfall, mic waterfall, and emoji waterfall. Today, we're going to talk about the chat waterfall and how that works and how you can apply it in your setting. Essentially, by the word waterfall, what we're saying is that everybody responds at once. So when we're going to use a chat protocol, that means you start to type in the chat box, but you don't hit enter yet. When I say go, we all hit enter and lots of responses fill the chat box. So that's the protocol we're going to implement on this first one. Take a look at this graphic organizer here. There are 3 items inside the circle and many more on the outside. All of the things on the inside have this in common. To use a chat protocol, you're going to type what you think they have in common in the chat box, but don't hit enter yet. Go ahead and practice it now. I'm going to wait a purposeful minute here while people think about the rule. All right, let's see that chat waterfall. Hit enter. This is great. Now I have tons of responses. I can start to select a couple different people and have them explain why they selected that. It's also nice because it gives me as a student the time to think about this response, maybe think about multiple ways and not feel rushed to it. And when I am called on, I already had a chance to put my thoughts down. So I'm not feeling so much like I was just called on. All right, let's check out another one. I'm going to increase the rigor just a little bit. Take a look at this one. Again, we're going to practice chat waterfall, so don't hit enter. What could it be? Let's see that waterfall. And again, at this point, I start to use the language I was thinking of. They were all poisonous or could be poisonous. Not all frogs are poisonous, not all spiders are poisonous, but some are. That's different than saying the right answer is. That's just the way I was thinking of it. And we could have others describe theirs. Let's increase the rigor a little bit. Let's check out another one. Again, practice that chat waterfall right in the chat box, but don't hit enter. All right, let's see that waterfall. And here is where we're getting into our content vocabulary. At this point, if I was the teacher of this lesson, we would be talking about a variety of different types of arthropods. We would talk about wings, different times things could have wings. We would talk about the number of legs and if they are insects or not insects. So there's a lot of content vocabulary that is starting to come out now because of the routine. I have one more for us to explore as we increase this rigor a little more. What could this one be? Again, we'll practice chat waterfall. And the more rigorous your content gets, the more differentiated your answers get also, because people start to think like, what could this be? All right, let's see the waterfall. What do you think the rule here is? These are fantastic answers. Again, in a class where I have microphone use, I might specifically call on students, ask them for their prior knowledge on this subject area. And in just a couple minutes, we have launched the lesson on metamorphosis. So folks, all of these type of animals go through some sort of metamorphosis. It is either a full metamorphosis or an incomplete metamorphosis, but they all go through it. You might be familiar with the life cycles of butterflies and frogs, but these other ones have life cycles also. So let's talk real briefly about what kind of happened here in this activity. So we're going to kind of go in with our teacher hat on. There was a specific protocol for chat waterfall, but there's other protocols that I really enjoy using too. One of them is mic waterfall. And sometimes as a student, I'm not quite sure of the answer. And so being on the spot and talking by myself can make me sometimes not feel like I have the same confidence level. When every student turns on their mic at the same time, it is a little chaotic, but amazing in terms of building your confidence. When you hear at the same time someone else saying insect, 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 all of a sudden you've got this idea that there are other people who are thinking like me. Also, I'll sometimes have students say, I have no idea on this one, but they also hear that from other students. So it's a way of connecting and a way of using your voice in an anonymous type situation. That's a mic waterfall. And the final one is an emoji waterfall. Many of our teleconferencing tools are starting to include emojis now. And especially for students who are early literacy or English language learners, having that option to search through the emojis and pick one that identifies what you're thinking is both fun and engaging for the students and can be really telling for this activity. So those are some of the different waterfalls. And a great follow-up is giving a student a blank one. Everyone can do their own. They can come on back and share those out. And as a teacher, now I have 15, 25, 100 other samples where I have a student leader who's ready to share their rule. So let's chat it out. We're going to keep using the chat box for a minute here. How did these two activities, which one doesn't belong, and the guess my role, how did these activities and the protocol increase student voice? And while you're thinking about that, what content do students classify in your class? Let's see that chat box light up. I'm seeing a lot of low risk. Many of you were feeling comfortable with this anonymous, semi-anonymous, or kind of collective responses. Time to think. Higher ratio of participation. Many of our students want a voice. There's two barriers usually in the way. The modality isn't quite there, or the confidence isn't quite there. And both of these build on that. Wait time is key. A tip that I have for you folks that I've done over the years, if the awkward silence bothers you, all you'll need is a notebook and a pen. And during that awkward silence time, you start to hand write down the solutions that you wanted your students to type in the chat box. That gives your brain something to do while you're giving them that wait time. It makes that awkward silence kind of slip away, and it helps to give the appropriate wait time for students to think about multiple solutions. People also brought up it gives students the chance to defend their answer. All right, folks, this is a fun group to work with today. Let's check out our next activity. One thing that's really important to me, no matter what type of students I'm working with, is that they have a chance to practice 4 language skills, and not just some students, but every single student in my class. In this next activity, we are going to create spaces for every student to type or write. We're going to use small groups for cooperative conversations. They're going to upload videos, and they're going to listen and respond to other students. So this is kind of my protocol for reading, writing, speaking, and listening. This activity, I'll start a video in a moment, but essentially we talked about metamorphosis. We started off a launch, and now I want the students to research or think about the problem further. This is the graphic organizer that they would fill out together. I have for you a couple finished ones also, just to give you an idea of some of the responses that they've put in here. We have some great questions in the chat box here. How are they working together? How are they doing this? I hope this video that I'm about to play here will demonstrate some of the how that is happening. So here we go. We have our video. Let me see what this looks like. It's small. Alrighty, I'm gonna hit play on this.
Hi, this is Theresa Wills, here's a tip for teaching at a distance. This activity is based off of The Important Book by Margaret Wise Brown. Students need to develop a main idea and 6 supporting details. All students have a place to type on this slide. They can choose a recorder where they may all type simultaneously. Both the teacher and other students may view other students' slides. Students collaborate together in order to determine a main idea and 6 supporting details. It is a process. Do we want to start brainstorming some other details? And does anyone have a thought about the biggest idea we could put at the top and the bottom? Metamorphosis is always happening. It never ends. Is maybe something simple if it changes one thing to another. Or the important thing is just repeating what you put on line 1. How do we feel about that being our top and bottom one? The next step of this assignment is for students to post their recording of the poem. Hi, I'm Laura. The important thing about metamorphosis is that it's a change that occurs. It is necessary for survival. It is a lifelong process. It is a part of the life cycle. It's a physical change. It is magical. And it's transformative. The important thing about metamorphosis is that it's a change that occurs.
All right, I am noticing here several that are mentioning the volume's low. I will definitely work on that. The videos, by the way, everything we're doing today is available to you on my website. I've got it here, teresawills.com/saddleback. You'll see everything that we're doing step by step, including the important thing activity, which is in here. So I will work on that, the sound for that. Thank you for your feedback. So essentially, what these students are doing here is they are working in a small group together to fill out their graphic organizer. They can assign a scribe, but they don't have to. They can all type in at the exact same time. Finally, this is increased by putting it on a program such as Flipgrid, where students can both read and listen They can have multiple times to put it up there to make sure that they're satisfied with their reading. And they can also respond to other students with their videos. Yes, my website, I will put it down here in the chat. Oh, thank you. So let's chat this out real quick. In this activity, students have a relatively blank slide and they are working together. How does this activity and protocol increase collaboration? And what content do students describe in your class? Let's chat it out. Someone's mentioning the blanks. That's a really important part of the structure of this. When your slides are relatively blank, you're giving students the agency and the ownership of your class to see, this is where I type. I'm the owner of the thinking and the learning. They are working together. Some of my students will kind of divide and conquer these slides when they're trying to think about which one should I do. They will sometimes work together. And depending on your protocols, you can really give them a lot of agency. People are writing in that their students are already comfortable sharing their screen, which is a fantastic way of sharing and having others chime in, and again, having just one scribe. And yes, they can all add at the exact same time. One thing that I frequently hear in online education is, but how do I get all my students to participate? There's also different protocols you can do on a page like this. I use color quite frequently, especially if I'm looking for accountability. So if I need to, in a certain class, I might say, it might assign colors to students so that I know anything with red on it here belongs to Jamie. Everything with blue belongs to Laura. And those can help me with accountability and for students to see that they're writing up there and we know which one, who's who. So what about other contents? How could you use this in your content area? I'm seeing learning to respect other ideas, absolutely. The sentence prompts are incredibly helpful for this. If you've never read the book that I described there before, The Important Thing, it's a really fantastic book because what it does is every single page uses the same sentence stems. It starts and ends with the exact same sentence, that main idea, and there's 6 supporting details in the middle. And a couple people ask, are they in breakout rooms? They are. And I also move around the different breakout rooms, listening in to what they're doing, how they are working on that, supporting them with additional questions, and also figuring out what type of conversations we should have as a whole group. Fantastic chat there. Yes, we are bringing all of our students in. Another thing that can be really useful, especially working with students who are young and early in literacy or who are developing the English language, is using the voice to text features. So the nice thing about it is that you can go up to the tools button, and voice to text is an option as long as you're using Google Chrome, and it will actually take your words that you say and start to type the text. Now that means their job is now spent editing, making sure that's what they meant versus finding the letter Y on the keyboard. So there's a couple other tips for that as well. You all have amazing ideas. Thank you so much for sharing them there. I've also got, on my website, you can interact with the Flipgrid. You can see the protocol, you can get the templates for those, and you can kind of explore some of those different ways of seeing this. Yes, the important book. All right, so we've talked a little bit about student voice. We've talked a little bit about fostering collaboration. Let's talk a little bit about interaction and some of the different ways that we can promote interaction in our classroom. I find as a teacher, one of the most important things is the way I structure, that students can find things in a very predictable place and they are self-starters. So the next couple of tips I have for you today are how to teach, know what your class is doing, and not feel like you're talking out there to the void. You're going to actually be able to see what your students are doing, thinking, and saying. So here's the protocol. The first thing I always do is make sure I post and link directions in a predictable location. Next, I use screenshots from the actual video. So if my students are watching a video and then I'm going to have them do something with the video, I take screenshots from the video. Again, we're increasing agency here because now I can fast forward and rewind to that spot that I need and learn more. That helps me with my learning. The tip I have for teachers right now is the raise hand feature and kind of using it in an opposite way. And then the final one is making sure my students know how to mute their tabs. Being able to mute their tabs allows the teacher to continue doing question answer with other students. They can mute their tab and they can begin the activity quietly and just return back at the end of the time. So let's see what this looks like. Let's play it out for managing questions and self-starting activities. On slide 20 here, this is an example of what I would want my students to do. This is the frog life cycle, and there's a couple really neat interactions with this. First of all, the directions are linked. This takes just a minute, and I'll be happy to show you how to do it. I can click those directions. It brings me right to Google Translate. I can listen to the directions in English. I can set my home language and listen to the directions in my home language. That's that first hurdle that's going to get me to be able to self-start, is hearing the directions again. Then I have the directions here that they're going to watch the video and complete the sort on the following slide. So the directions are in a predictable location, and their assignment is to sort the different frog life cycles. And again, there's nice little Google Translate links here that will support you with what is a tadpole. Can I hear tadpole again? Can I hear it? Can I see some of the parts of speech, etc.? And I'm actually going to move these around to try and match up the 6 different frogs and tadpoles. Let's give you a try. So again, just to make you very familiar with my website where you can get everything from. We are in the managing questions and self-starting activities. So again, theresawills.com/saddleback. You'll click on the templates. It's going to give you your own copy. See if you are successful self-starting this activity. We'll come back in about 3 minutes. At this point, I, as a teacher, might not be sure if all my students know how to start. Maybe I'm thinking, oh wait, should I say the directions again? Or does everyone know how to begin? Does anyone have any questions? And that's a common practice right now because we are still channeling the face-to-face. Here's how I use the raise hand feature backwards. I'll ask students, if you are ready to begin, please raise your hand now. That's my signal that you're going to be tuning out. And all I need to do at that point is look at my participant list for anyone who does not have a hand up. And that lets me know, are you there? Do you understand the directions? Do you need to talk it out? Now my students with the hand raise have muted me on the mute tab, and they are working through the activity and they're not distracted by me and the other conversations going on. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of talk that happens in virtual instruction, and sometimes we need our quiet time. I see several participants are raising their hand, letting me know that they know what to do. They are working hard. Some of you are asking, do I need a copy of it now? If you like, this resource is always available for you. You'll get a chance to kind of move the things around and save it to your own Google Drive. Some of you are asking about, how you can mute the meeting, and you can, on most computers, the simple answer is right-clicking the tab you're in and say mute tab. There's a couple other ways of doing that. I'll have some troubleshooting guides for you to figure out how to do it on your machine that you're working on. A couple of you are noticing, how do I manipulate the green grid? And I've got some FAQs to support with that, but the green grid is locked. I don't want my students moving that part. I only want them moving the images and the terms. So I've kind of made this interactive, but also a locked slide. A couple of you are asking, can you download a copy? What this is a forced download. So it'll go directly into your Google Drive. Yes, it'll go right in there, and then you have it. You can edit it, you can change it up, you can explore it. So what you'll do is you'll click on templates. It'll ask me, since I'm logged in, do I want to make a copy of this? And I will say yes. If you're not logged in, you'll just need to log in. Once you've done that, it'll let you move the pieces around. There's just 2 slides here. Absolutely, you can move the images, and you can also move the terms. Some people are asking, do I have students create their own Google accounts? There's a couple ways you can do it within Google. If you have Google Classroom, it's already done for you. If you don't, I do typically have students use their school email address. Many schools are going that route now, and I'll push it out to them. But typically for this type of an activity, I have all the kids working in my slides. So my students usually have editing access to them, and I build them up to it. I don't start them on day 1 like that. Alrighty, I can also see by the number of hands up that people are starting to come back. They have finished this activity and they are ready to join the class. So I've given them a time to return, and then I'm also seeing who still has their hand up. That is a really liberating cue for me to know which students are ready and off working and which ones still need my support. That will increase the time your students are spending on content and less on you wondering if they understand what to do. All right, folks, let's chat it out. How did this activity and protocol increase interaction? And what content do students describe in your class. Someone mentioned everyone is working independently, and it can be tough when a student doesn't have questions for you to be able to know if they're self-starting. When I see it on my slides that students are self-starting, when I see their hand up and then come down, it gives me that cue that I need. The instructions were there and they're in a predictable place. Even if it's boring looking, keep your instructions predictable. And whenever you can, link them. I'm about to give you a link of how to do the Google Translate links with it. It's really quick and easy, and it saves the directions for your students. Someone mentioned that every student is interacting, and that's exactly right. It's not that we send them off for an asynchronous day and they might have questions. It is a synchronous, independent opportunity. So you might have a math video that they're watching and watching how, a formula works with a set of numbers, but at any time they can lower their hand, turn on their mic and say, but how does that work here? And so you're kind of creating these two spaces, one that's open to discussion, talking about directions or the content, and the other that is silent, working independently, and you know that they know what to do. They can self-start. Someone also mentioned going back to the video. When you use the screen captures of the items in the video that you're then going to assess later, it's not cheating because the kids can move there. What that's doing is they're giving a 21st century skill set of how to find what you need. If I'm going to go change a carburetor, I'm probably going to need to watch the whole video from the very beginning. However, if I'm just replacing a battery, I know I've done this before. Let me just fast forward to this is the part I need. So, using that to their advantage as a 21st century skill. What about content? I see lots of ways you all can use this, but what content do you have students sort or match? I'm seeing some people say all contents. The reason why I'm asking this is the most important thing for teachers right now is you get something you can use next week. So if you're thinking to yourself, I'm talking about polygons and non-polygons, or I'm talking about protagonist and antagonist, or I'm talking about, in a variety of different things. When you can get specific here in the chat box, I know you're going to apply that next week. Grammar and parts of speech, sounds of letters, absolutely. Characters and traits. You all got it. You're a great group to work with. You have so many ideas here. As I get down to kind of the Q&A and additional resources, I do want to mention that I try to really focus on just 3 areas: collaboration, interaction, and student voice, because they're ones that I find that teachers want the most. A lot of my work comes out of after years of trying something out, developing a protocol that makes sense of the situation and leverages those online tools. I hope these protocols have inspired you to think about how to use the online tools to your advantage, but realize that they are not a hard and set recipe. When you're first starting online, you might want to start with a recipe just like you would with cooking. Once you've learned to cook, you're not going to measure everything out. You're going to add a little bit of this, add a little bit of that. So as you get better at this, keep thinking about protocols and how you can change them to work for you. Alrighty, finally here, I've got, on my website, I try to make it really easy for you on where to go, how to find things. So theresawills.com/saddleback, it's got each thing we did step by step, and you can get the templates for it. The other thing that I have in here for differentiation right now is maybe you want to learn more about routines, how to bring these into the content area. There is a 30-minute video for you to take and use however you like. This is related directly to my book. However, there are things that can be used in any content area. So if you're looking for, I need a 5-minute warm-up routine, it's there. If you want to know how to do discussions, it's there. If you want to know about community building, it's there. And if you want some specific protocols, they're in those videos also. And the last thing on there is a copy of the slideshow so that you all can have access to it. There's something really special in this slideshow, and that is the very end. I do have some Q&As. So if you want to know, how do I start with drag and drop slides? There's a video. You want to clone that star from the which one doesn't belong? There's a video. If you want to translate, use the Google Translate, it's there also. I've been doing this for a little while. I have a general idea of the questions people ask, and I've developed videos to help you all with this. So I am here at this point. I want to give you plenty of time to ask the questions you want, and you differentiate for yourself. If you're a video person, dive right in. But give yourself grace as you try these, and I hope that you've learned a tip that you can implement next week.
Awesome. Thank you, Theresa. We do have quite a few questions that people were using the chat box to drop their questions. And so I've been scrolling through furiously, trying to jot some of these down. So where do I start? Let's see. Do you, oh, first of all, somebody wanted to know, they love this presentation. How do they share it with their team? Of course, the recording will be available for you to share with your team. And Theresa has lots of resources and different videos on her website and her YouTube channel that you can share with your team as well. Theresa, any other ideas for how anybody who was just in love with this and wants to share it widely, how they can do that?
Absolutely. So I've been recording myself pretty much every day since March. I have a lot of recordings available. So to make it easy, everything we've done today is chunked on this part, including 30 minutes of how to implement these in your classroom. These ones will bring you through a lot of the things that teachers are wondering about: community, routines, discussions, and more. Even breakout rooms are in there. But if you're looking for something a little different, I've got PD recordings. And so that's up on my website, theresawills.com. And if I click on PD recordings, a lot of what you've done today, there is a 1-hour webinar on how to teach this to other teachers. And you get the templates. So that's all in there. If you're interested in more things like graphic organizers and jigsaws, maybe how to give students their own space. You might be interested in classroom management and accountability, or strategies that work for every subject area. Maybe you're in a K2 classroom and you're trying to figure this out. So what I've done is I've also put 1-hour webinars that I've done with other teachers, a recording of it, and the blank slide deck, so that you can continue to share out and we can get these resources out to teachers when they need them most.
Thank you. How do we, I think you already addressed this a little bit in one of the protocols that you shared, but what if I'm really having trouble getting my students to turn on those microphones and talk to me? What are some quick tips that you can share around that, helping those kids get comfortable?
Absolutely, and this is a great question. When we move from face-to-face to online, we typically try to implement a lot of the same strategies that we did, because one, we're really good at it, and two, it's what we know. One of those is how you communicate. And in a face-to-face class, you typically communicate using the microphone. But in the online world, there is a whole nother group of people who love to participate by typing on a slide or typing in the chat box or using emojis. The minute that you give students access to all of them, you will find that more students are participating because you have given them access to the modality that they prefer. So there's a couple of things that you could do, including the waterfalls. So if you really want that microphone on and working, you might try a microphone waterfall, in which case you'll tell everyone, get ready, we're going to turn our mics on, have that think time, give optimal wait time, do a countdown, and then turn on your mics and talk. What that does is it releases the anxiety of being the only student talking, and you'll hear a ton of giggles too, and it makes people comfortable with a microphone. Do that a couple times. Also allow them to put emojis in and joke a little bit in the chat box, and you'll find that they are invested in the class.
Thank you for that. And speaking of emojis, we had a question around where this is a great idea. I love this, but I don't know how the students are supposed to access emojis. Is that one that's listed in your FAQ of how, if the students are on Chromebooks, where do they get these emojis?
Right. So the emojis thing right now is coming into Zoom. It is already there in many other platforms. Collaborate has over 200 different emojis, and the other softwares are finding that and getting into it. The other one is the simple old-fashioned ones, and the kids love doing that. They call them retro emojis, and little things like, I'm going to type a couple in here now. These are the I agree, the smiley face, and the oh, that was mind-blowing face. And so they will continue to teach you too. They're going to bring some really cool ones in. And so again, opening this up will bring giggles, laughter, but more access to a modality that they're comfortable participating in.
Do you ever ask students to share their slides? Or are you just working on collaborative slide deck where everybody can see things at all times?
I do a little bit of both, but I mostly do a collaborative slide deck. So right here, you all didn't get editing access because Google Slides works up to about 125 people, and there's more than that here. So it would have gotten very locked up. However, when multiple people are in the slides at once and moving things around, I have a lot of control. I know where students are. I can see avatars moving around. I can see their names as they're typing. I can see who's participating over the voice by bumping into those breakout rooms. And I even find students who might be camera shy and mic shy are thriving in the shared slide environment because they get to type down their responses and they're finally able to access that modality that they want to have their voice in.
Thank you. We have two more questions that came up. And the first is around interruptions. So we have some teachers who feel like their primary concern right now is they're getting bogged down with interruptions, and they're just looking for some ideas and tips on that.
You know, I find sometimes the interruptions are either one of two. It's almost like the teacher kind of interrupting themselves. So if I'm not sure if everyone gets it, or I'm not sure how to get a check for understanding, I'm almost stopping my own lesson before it can really launch. So find a specific way to find out if your students are ready to self-start. You can use the hand raise feature. You can use the, go faster, go slower, the yes, the no, but do those same check-ins that you would have done in a face-to-face class. If you're relying on facial expressions, give students a modality for facial expressions in other ways, an emoji, a hand up, other things. The other type of interruption is students trying to have a voice. And so they might be starting and students have a question. And so they're turning on their mic and they're asking, or you've restricted microphones and now they're getting distracted and doing something else. So by having a chat box open or having a way to see raise hands, or protocols for we raise hands after I've gone through the directions or after I've gone through this, can really help your classroom management. So those are some suggestions.
Thank you so much. One question just popped up about, can I do all of these things on Microsoft Teams because that's what I have to use? I feel like you probably can, but have you had any experience having to use Microsoft Teams, Theresa?
I know that people are doing it in teams. I don't have access to those right now, so I have not experienced them personally. But there is a community out there who is using interactive stuff with teams. You know, if you want to drop me an email too, I'd be happy to hook you up with some of the people that are doing some great stuff.
Thank you. And the final question I have for you is, what about those students who are really just needing individual attention? If I'm teaching online synchronously and I can see that I just really need to get to one or two kids for some extra individual attention, how do I handle that?
I often think about what would I have done in the face-to-face classroom. Typically, let's say I have one or two students that might need some additional support. If everybody else has, let's say, an independent or assignment to do, then I would physically walk over and work one-on-one with that student. There's spaces online for that. I can create breakout rooms and have that student in their own where I pop in and work one-on-one. I can also have them work with a group and I will pop in there. But really, the bigger question is, what are the other students doing? And so making sure that they are self-starters, that your directions are in a clear place can help the classroom management to make sure that they are able to work so that you can get to that student for that small group instruction or individual instruction.
Thank you. Before we sign off for the day, I want to make sure everybody knows who we have coming up next week for our Saddleback webinar. And that is another fan favorite. Michelle Izquierdo is coming, and she's going to talk about assessing student learning during remote instruction. This is another hot topic. People need to know, how can I make sure my students are progressing? What are some things I can do around that topic? So Michelle will be joining us to speak to that, and you can register for that on our website. And also, as usual, you'll be getting an email from us, and we will prompt you to register that way as well. So I just have one more question for the crowd before we sign off. I guess let's do it in a chat waterfall, right? What are your thoughts on this interactivity that you experienced today in this webinar? Thumbs up. Did we enjoy this interactivity? Appropriate wait time, right? And when you're ready, go ahead and let us get your quick feedback here. Did you like this style? Great. Theresa, you are working magic out there.
And folks, you all got this. You can do it. I had 10 years to slowly dip my toe in the water. I've got a couple tips over that time. And so I've shared them out freely out there. I have a lot of resources on my website. And, you know, that's just because of the extra time. Once you get your feet wet with this, you're going to be moving and grooving, doing those routines that you would have done in the face-to-face, working in hybrid situations, remote learning, and everything in between. So you've got this, you've got a support, and you don't have to start from scratch. There's a lot of stuff there. You know, start with that.
Theresa, thank you so much for your generosity, sharing your time and sharing all of your experience and resources so that our teachers who have joined us today, not only have they experienced it a little bit, but they have a place to go, your website, where they have templates and you can really start tackling this and giving it a try immediately. So we appreciate you so very much. And I just don't know how many ways can we thank you. Don't forget to check out Theresa's website. You can find Saddleback on your favorite social media platform. We are everywhere, especially Twitter. Go to Twitter, give us a shout out, please. And we will see everybody next week for our session with Michelle. And finally, thank you. Thank you for spending time with us today. And thank you for all that you do for students every day. Have a great week, and we'll see everybody next week. Thanks, Theresa.